Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The Season 6 update within Warzone and MW3 obviously included a lot of weapon updates. We got a couple of new weapons. We saw different things buffed and nerfed. And so with that today, I wanted to go through and break down the full-on meta update for Season 6. So we have our entire list of every single weapon, MW2 and MW3, available in Warzone right now. And this might be the last time that we look at this list before Black Ops 6 arrives. So bit of a bittersweet moment, but nonetheless, first things first, we gotta break down our two new weapons. The Cast-Off LSW LMG, it's kind of a strange one. Like, it's a decent LMG, but it's also not that crazy at the same time. It's awkward because of its recoil and its fire rate being so fast and the recoil being so much vertically, meaning that you're kind of limited to like mid-range fights at best with it. And so for that reason, I think it's more of just really a competitive LMG. You can build it out for tac stance. It can be very fun, but it's certainly one that is not nearly as versatile or viable at the top end as some other options like the Pulum Yacht or the Eradicator, so on and so forth. That said, our DTIR 30-06 is basically the best gun in the entire game right now. This thing is nuts. Low recoil, fast TTK, it's doing everything right. The thing is absolutely unreal. Now, our new weapons out of the way, I've got my handy dandy list of notes of all the other weapon changes for all the other updates that went out in the Season 6 patch. So we'll go one by one and break things down and adjust things accordingly. First up, the BP50, an already meta option for both the rifle and the SMG conversion, actually got a buff on the conversion kit ranges, and it got a decent buff on the base range as well on the BP50, so it's better for long range, and the conversion kit is better up close. So the BP50 obviously staying in absolute meta, and that's one that I'm very excited about. Now, the Hoger 556 got yet another range buff. That's solid. It's still going to be decently limited by its ammo capacity, but it's a great rifle for what it's worth. Just a tad bit slow with like its reload and its general movement. And like I said, only 40 rounds max is not great. It works, but it could be better. It's a top tier rifle for sure though, and it's feeling a little bit better now because of this update. The base MCW also got another buff. It got a couple of mid to long range buffs there, so its TTK over range will be more competitive than it's ever been before. It's still not going to have the #1 absolute fastest TTK, but it just keeps getting better and better and better, which is fun to see. And of course, the conversion kit is absolute meta as well. The MTZ 556 also got like its 6th straight update as well. It got another headshot buff, so if you're accurate with the MTZ 556, you're going to be feeling good in game. It's a top tier rifle yet again. The DPM kind of struggles, but it's still a really good rifle. Now, the STG is kind of an awkward one to rank right now because as of the time that I'm recording this, they nerfed the range on it. However, the patch notes also mentioned multiplier nerfs, and according to True Game Data, those are not fully live yet. So it's like been half nerfed. That said, the range nerfs are noticeable. Beyond its first damage range, it's a very average TTK rifle. It's just so insanely easy to use that people are not going to naturally shy away from it. So I think it's very much so borderline absolute meta top tier. I think it's got more of an argument for top tier, but just because of how the Warzone meta works, players don't want to give up their weapons that they've been using for seasons on end, which I don't fully understand. I think it's incredibly boring, but it's still so good with its control, so good with its velocity that even though its TTK is kind of mediocre, it's still such a phenomenal choice. So I think for now I'm gonna leave it in absolute meta, but I think it is, you know, very close to being put in that top tier category instead. Now, the SVA ended up getting a range buff, so that's yet again better than it was before. Nothing too drastic there, so just simply staying in top tier is another fantastic rifle choice. Now, the M13C, I won't lie, was already kind of slept on, although I think it probably realistically is more so in the competitive category. I think now though there's a case for it being in top tier because it got yet another sprint-to-fire buff, so it's more aggressive now, and it already has a relatively fast TTK. You'll load it up with MW3 attachments and you'll actually be all right with this thing. It's close between competitive and top tier for sure. Like, you look at some of these other options in top tier and it's like, okay, that's clearly, you know, there, whereas this one might be more borderline because we're not super familiar with it and it hasn't been utilized that much so far this year. but it's actually a decently good choice. And by the way, as we are breaking down all the weapons and updates here, if you enjoy this video, if you find it helpful at all, a like rating is always seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you have not subscribed yet, every single day, this is the place to be to stay up to date with everything going on in COD, news, updates, meta breakdowns, everything like that. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up, a really fun one. The M16 conversion kit got range buffs across the board. This is already a decently fast TTK option, and it just got even more reliable and even more consistent with its damage ranges. That's a really fun update there, and this can actually compete with several of these other really good rifles. It just ultimately is still an MW2 gun at its core. And then the Geist simply got an ADS speed buff, which is nice. It definitely needed that, and its TTK and its first and second damage ranges is fantastic, so it's also still a top tier rifle. Now, several battle rifles ended up getting basically the same updates here. So the Cronin Squall got some recoil buffs. That's nice. It's a little bit easier to use. Its TTK is not that great though, so it's viable. It's decent enough that it can hang, but it's not going to be anything too crazy. Definitely not a top tier viable battle rifle yet, so that one's staying where it is. Same deal with the FTAC Recon. This is such a high risk, high reward choice. It's got basically the fastest TTK in the game, but its ammo capacity sucks. Its control, even after the buff, is not that great, so I think it's kind of capped out at being realistically competitive, but in the right hands could necessarily be ridiculously busted at the same time. It's one of the weirder guns that we have, but I'm trying to base this off of where the general placement, the general likelihood of winning a gunfight as just a standard player, right? As like the broad audience, not necessarily the best of the best who are crazy accurate, right? So if that was the case, pretty much everything would be absolute meta. But yeah, FTAC Recon got recoil buff, Cronin Squall got a recoil buff, Lockman 762 got a recoil buff, and then the TAC V got a slight ADS buff and a slight stability buff. That's not going to change any of these out of competitive just because they're still MW2 guns and their TTKs are not crazy. Some of the Recon and the TAC V, but they have limiters in place and balances in place for sure. We also saw some interesting SMG buffs here too. So the AMR9, a decent sniper support choice, just got even better for sniper support. Got a range buff and then also some lower torso multiplier buffs. So slightly faster TTK and some decently better range. Nice update there. It's not going to be competing with like the striker in terms of sniper support, but it's going to be a decent choice for sure. The HRM9 surprisingly got a slight update here to its max range than its lower torso, but also that's not going to be an update that necessarily brings it in line with these other absolute meta choices, which is a bit unfortunate. That one's kind of been out of the meta for some time. Was a weird buff though that didn't really change all that much. Hey everyone, real quick, want to give a huge shout out to my friends over at Gamer Advantage. You guys know by now, if you're active viewers here on the channel, that I am always rocking my Horizon frames. These are by far my favorite frame style and fit, but they got a little bit of something for everyone. Multiple different frame styles and different colorways for all those frame styles. They offer prescription and regular lenses, so no matter what your situation is, if you're looking at screens for long periods of time, whether it is school, work, whatever the case may be, Gamer Advantage is a must-have. Reduce your eye strain, sleep better at night. They're doing so much for you. They truly are game changers, and that's why I'm wearing mine every single day. If you ever want to get a pair for yourself, throw in code WHosImmortal at checkout, and you'll get a nice little discount. The link for that will be down in the description below. And then the RAM9 got a couple of range buffs as well, but its overall TTK is still nothing that crazy, and it's going to be outclassed by several choices in top tier and in absolute meta as well. Quite frankly, even though it wasn't changed as well, I'm looking at this and saying the Rival 9 is definitely worth, I think, of being a top tier SMG, more so than the Ram 9 or the HRM. Like, I'm picking that over those every day of the week, so we can bump up that one sort of indirectly there. But yeah, really strange SMG update here. Really surprised we didn't see nerfs to the Superi and the static, or even like the Wasp 9, just to add in a little more competition or more significant buffs to these lesser options. Just didn't seem like they cared enough to change the close range meta. And then lastly here, just a bit of a disclaimer, the patch notes did mention that the RAL conversion kit, which is like a 3-shot kill, was supposed to receive some multiplier nerfs. Basically the headshot, neck, torso, arms, those were all supposed to have nerfs to the damage multipliers. However, as of the time that I'm recording this, that update's not live. COD updates did mention that an update would be coming for this, but well, what do you know? It is post-edit Zach here, because that aforementioned update did end up happening prior to me posting this video. So we might as well make sure this list is fully up to date. They did nerf the RAL with those proper adjustments just mentioned there, and it was a pretty severe nerf to this conversion kit. And honestly, I'd say it probably falls in line with the more competitive options now, quite frankly. I don't even know if it's worth running the conversion kit over just the base RAL like it was for the past couple of weeks. It was a hard nerf to the RAL. They did also slightly nerf the DTIR, so it's not going to be nearly as monopolizing in the meta where it's the clear #1 choice. It's still the meta for sure, and it's got a better TTK than pretty much all the other rifles and significant other meta options and meta contenders. It's still the go-to, but it's not nearly as dominant as it was before. But yeah, fully up to date now with everything and all the changes that have gone live up until this point. Hopefully there's no more post-edit Zach here for the rest of the video. And that said, if you guys enjoyed it, a like rating would be seriously appreciated. And if you are new to the channel or you simply have not subscribed yet, we should change that. On your way out, hit that sub button, turn on those post notifications, as we are on the road to 1 million subscribers. And every single day, I got you covered with all things you need to know about Call of Duty. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.